Thank you very much for joining us at the regular meeting of the El Centro City Council for Tuesday, April 11th. First item on the agenda, please, is the roll call.
Councilmember Sanders.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson.
Here.
Councilmember Cardenas.
Present.
And Mayor Silva.
Present. For the record, I'd like to say that Councilmember Walker is in D.C. this evening on her role with the SCAG Vice Presidency, so she will not be joining us today. Next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance led to us by Councilmember Sanders, and then the invocation led by Pastor Nunn.
Join me if you will. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to read to you this text just as a promise by way. It says, "Now, O Lord my God, you have made known to your servant, the king, instead of my father David, and I am a little child. I do not know how to go in or how to come out. And your servant is in the midst of your people, whom you have chosen, a great people, too numerous to be numbered or counted. Therefore, give to your servant an understanding heart to judge your people, that I might discern between good and evil. For who is able to judge this great people of yours?" The speech pleased the Lord. And so Solomon had asked this thing, and God said to Solomon, "Because you have asked for this thing, have not asked for long life for yourself, nor have you asked for riches for yourself, nor have you asked for the life of your enemies, but you have asked for understanding to discern justice. Behold, I have done according to your words. See, I have given you a wise and an understanding heart, so that there's no one like you, and nor shall there be after you." So we want to just pray over our council members tonight. And if you'd like to pray in an agreement with me, just extend your hand. And we say, "Father, we bring to you our council members this evening. We are so thankful for their service. We are so thankful for their heart that wants to give to their community. And God, we pray that you would bless them with this wisdom that Solomon asked for. He asked for wisdom, and you gave it, and you blessed him, and there was none like him before nor after. And we pray for the same wisdom for our friends tonight. Lord, would you grant them the ability to discern good and evil? Would you help them, God, to hear your voice above all other voices? Lord, even my own, if we ever sound like noise, Lord, I pray that they would be able to hear your voice above all. And God, that you would give them the courage and the boldness that they need to listen and to heed and to obey your voice. God, that you would lead them and guide them and direct them. Because, Lord, we believe that as the community that stands behind them, Lord, they lead us. And where they lead, Lord, we're going to be following. So, Lord God, I pray an anointing over them. God, I pray that you'd fill them with your Holy Spirit. Give them the wisdom that they need this night to govern us in a way that would please you. Lord, I know your word says that if any man needs wisdom, is in want of wisdom, if we should ask you, you will give it without measure. And Lord, I pray for wisdom for my friends tonight. Give it to them without measure so that they can lead us in a way that honors you. And we pray this tonight in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Nunn, for that. That was very nicely done. Very well done.
Mr. Mayor, it was my honor, and I'm so thankful to be asked.
Thank you, Pastor Nunn. Okay, our next item on the agenda is a report from our city attorney on closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On a motion by Councilmember Jackson, second by Councilmember Sanders, the City Council met in closed session at 11:32 a.m. Mayor Silva and Councilmembers Cardenas, Jackson, and Sanders were present, with Councilmember Cardenas arriving at 11:38 a.m. Councilmember Villegas Walker was absent. Reports were given to council on the three anticipated litigation items. There is no final action to report on any of the items, but direction was given to staff on all three, including one of the reports where there was a motion from Councilmember Cardenas, second by Councilmember Jackson, that was approved 4-0 with Councilmember Villegas Walker absent. Greg Mosier, outside counsel, participated in one of the reports, and Kevin Sullivan, outside counsel, Ken Herbert, fire chief, and Norma Villacaña, community development director, participated in one of the reports. With regard to all of the pending litigation items and claims listed on the agenda, reports were given for information only with no action to report. The council considered the performance evaluations of the city manager, city clerk, and city attorney. The city manager and city attorney excused themselves from this discussion at 1:38 p.m., and closed session concluded at 1:50 p.m. And that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. I just want to expand a little bit on one of the items that our city attorney responded to. We heard a brief update from the attorney that the city retained to provide a full scope review of the issue related to the transfer agreement. We anticipate a full report to the council at our next, can you hear me? We anticipate a full report to the council at our next meeting, which will be May 5th. And it is also our anticipation that we'll have a public session, a public presentation from the attorneys as it relates to this issue. So that's anticipated for our Cinco de Mayo, May 5th council meeting in 2 weeks from today. We're going to do a bit of an adjustment on the agenda under presentations. There's 3. We're going to change the order of those presentations, and we'll start with our Chief of Police, Chief Madueño, introducing us to our newest police officers.
Honorable Mayor, council members, and our city manager, good evening. I want to begin by introducing 3 of our newest police officers. But before I do that, I want to assure our community that we do have police officers working our streets. They're not all in here. Also, as I introduce our newest police officers, I want to give my sincerest gratitude and acknowledgement to our training unit. Our training unit goes by the name of Sergeant Damien Valdez, who's back here. He's done a tremendous amount of work in the past year in filling numerous vacancies that we've had. He's received some assistance. We have one of our officers, Leo Boulong, has been assisting him, as well as a wonderful civilian volunteer, Nancy Rhodes. I don't believe she understands that she's a volunteer because she's there quite a bit, but we really appreciate the work that those assigned to the training unit have done. So if I can ask my 3 newest police officers to come join me up here. We hired these 3 young men several months ago, and then we sent them to the San Diego Regional Police Academy, which is based out of the Miramar Air Station, where they spent the past 6 months undergoing intensive training. This past Thursday, April 16th, they graduated. My command staff and I were able to attend their graduation, where they received their badge, and they took their oath, so they're officially police officers effective that date. So I'll begin here with Edgar Jaimes. Edgar was raised in Calexico, graduated from Calexico High School. Next to him, we have Officer Jeffrey Brown. Jeffrey's from Mobile, Alabama. Decided to serve his country by enlisting in the United States Navy, spent some time overseas, and then ended up at our Naval Air Facility, and as often happens, fell in love with the Imperial Valley, has made it his home for the past several years. He was working at as a transportation officer at the detention center, and now he's one of us. Then next to him is Peter Salcido, born and raised in El Centro. Peter graduated from Centro High School and then graduated from San Diego State. I'll add that Officer Brown is also attending University of Phoenix, so those local connections. So once they graduate, after 6 months, they thought it was over. They started our 16-week field training program where they'll be doubled up with a senior officer who will assess their skills and show them the procedures that we use within our city. Once they complete that, they'll be solo officers and they'll be on their own. So again, I present Officer Jaimes, Officer Brown, and Officer Salcido.
So thank you very much on behalf of the council. Welcome to the city of El Centro as our newest police officers. You are entering what we consider and we know is the finest police department in Imperial Valley. we're happy to see you here. We're happy to see our local products be officers. And even though Officer Brown may not have been born here, but it seems like you've been here for a while. You value Imperial Valley, so we're going to consider you a native for our purposes. So that I couldn't be happier and more pleased to have you here, to recognize you, to welcome you on behalf of all of us, and to know that you are protecting us, protecting our community, putting your life in danger for the benefit of protecting our citizens. So for all that, thank you very much. I'd like to maybe hear a little bit from each of you guys as to what you may want to share and about your life and what goals you may have.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, like the Chief was saying, I am a Calexico High School graduate. I was raised in Calexico, California, and I am in love with the Imperial Valley. I've been working here in El Centro for a while. I was front desk at the Marriott and then transferred to the County of Mental Health as a transportation as well. It's a pleasure to be here and a blessing, and I'm here to serve you.
Thank you very much for that.
My name is Peter Salcedo. As Chief Medina said, I am born and raised here. My family has a family business here off of 4th Street and Pearl Valley Pain Center. So I've been working since I was about 11.
Wow.
So, so I decided to have a little bit of change. So I decided to pursue a career in law enforcement. So I applied for Central PD. And after 6 months in the academy, here I am. And I just can't wait to get started.
Wow. So I must have met you when you were a little boy, huh?
Probably did.
Thank you, Mayor. Jeffrey Brown. Like Chief said, I'm not from here, but the Valley, I found out it has a way of keeping you here once you're here. I mean, I don't know if it's the food or what, but I mean, I'm here. I'm here to stay. I'm happy. I'm just excited for this new opportunity that I have in my life. I'm ready to get started and make you guys proud of me.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much. Ms. Sanders, any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to applaud the three, I want to say recruits, but they're not recruits any longer. They're 3 officers. Happy to have you join our staff. You certainly did join, as the mayor has already identified, one of the finest police departments, not only in El Centro or in Imperial County, but also in the state. So we know that you will do your very best. The citizens of El Centro deserves the best, and we believe that you will step up to the plate and provide that level of service. Thank you for being a part of our community.
Mr. Jackson?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, welcome to the city of El Centro. I know you guys are going to be able to serve our community with dignity and integrity. Mr. Salcedo, your brother, is it Steve?
That's my uncle, sir.
Your uncle, okay. I went to school with him in CHP now, isn't he? Yeah, so, but welcome to the city of El Centro, and I see things. You've got a great chief, you've got a great department, command staff is excellent, and I think that certainly we're the envy of every other department in this county and beyond, so welcome.
Mr. Cardenas?
Yeah, Chief, just great job. I can't share how important it is when you bring our new sworn officers before City Council, because it is a very important event, not only to our council but to our citizens. So I always am very encouraged when you bring these folks into our chambers. I do want to welcome all 3 of you and welcome you to our family. We have a great family. And also want to just recognize, Chief, on your recruitment efforts. I know that recruiting officers right now seems to be a challenge, and the fact that we're able to continually recruit and promote is a testament to your leadership. So thank you, Chief, for everything you do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And speaking of our El Centro finest, a very heroic event happened on March the 4th, in which we're going to recognize the heroic effort and work of our El Centro Police Department. And I asked the chief to give me a little bit of a write-up as to some of the details. So I'm going to take the privilege of reading you this to make sure that I do not skip any details that are so important, again, in recognition of our police officers. On Wednesday, March 4th, 2015, At about 12:33 a.m., the El Centro Police Department received a 911 call from a resident who heard breaking glass. Officer Adrian Irales arrived on the scene in less than 60 seconds and discovered there was a house on fire. He notified dispatch and requested El Centro Fire. Officer Singh and Sergeant John Seaman arrived soon after. The rest of the team, Officer Jesus Viesca and Officer Jill Crothers, arrived within 2 minutes. Officer Singh and Officer Irales, upon learning that there was a male in the house, entered in an effort to locate and rescue him. They forced their way into the home and were able to locate the man and escort him safely out of the house. Sergeant Seaman, Officer Viesca, and Officer Crothers had broken out windows in the front of the home to provide a escape route for their fellow officers, but they found a different exit. So the heroic actions of our officers saved a life, and we're so happy that they were able to do that. And again, they put their life at risk for the safety of our citizens, and we cannot undervalue that and appreciate that very much. So, yeah. Chief Maldeño, do you want to add anything to?
Yes, Mayor, thank you very much. Just to add a little bit, so what occurred is a young lady by the name of Gail Cesenia, and I wonder, is Gail here? Okay, so Gail is back there, and we'll have her come up in a few minutes. Gail was at home and heard breaking glass, and this, assuming that possibly there was maybe a burglary at her neighbor's home, did something that we encouraged. She called the police. She called 911. Our dispatchers on duty, Cynthia Guzman and Giselle Frazier, they took the call and they were entering the comments into a computer. As they're receiving it, they're entering it simultaneously. Officer Girales, by the grace of God, was like just down the street, started reading the comments and proceeded to respond to the location before it was actually dispatched. Saw, in fact, that it was a fire, called it in. Within 2 minutes of this all transpiring, we had all 5 of my police officers on scene. We have, our officers wear body cameras, and you can see that the resident, Mrs. Murphy, is also in the audience, was coming out, and you can hear her calling for help. Officer Girales asked her was there anyone inside. She says, yes, my husband. He tried to get a general sense to where. Officer Singh was there. The team started arriving. They started assessing it. It was very clear that there was a fire, intense smoke, flames, but they knew that there was a subject in there. So Officer Girales and Officer Singh made their way to the back of the residence, ended up forcing their way into the residence, searched as much as they could, and you couldn't see anything in there because of the smoke. You can hear them coughing. Matter of fact, all of my officers received some level of smoke inhalation. These 2 officers went in there, were able to locate Mr. Murphy, escorted him out, and then the rest of the team, fearing that the officers couldn't find their way out, were breaking out windows in the front to try to create an escape route for them, calling out to them. They were able to get out through the back. The rest of the officers assisted in removing Mr. and Mrs. Murphy across the street to safety, and fire department got there and took care of the fire. I've had occasion to talk to the Murphy's daughter, Jennifer Janae, and I explained to her that what these officers did was not act as police officers, because we are not trained to do that. We are not equipped to do that. They're really not expected to do that. I told her they went in as human beings to save another human being. So I'm very proud of them. But I also want council to know that once that happened, the Murphys weren't able to tell us the exact address of where their children lived in the San Diego area. Officer Jill Carruthers used our resources, our computers, and with what limited information she had, she was able to locate physical addresses for the son and daughter, contacted the police authorities, who then went and notified the family that, hey, this happened, so they can be with their family. Tragically, they lost some pets. Officer Viesca, upon learning that, went back to the residence to clear those pets out of the home so that the family didn't have to go home to that. So our officers and our dispatchers work 12-hour shifts. They came in at 7 p.m. that day, and this happened about 5.5 later, halfway into their shift. My two dispatchers, Cynthia Guzman and Giselle Frazier, upon finishing their 12-hour shift at about 7 a.m., took it upon themselves to go and purchase a get well card and a plant for the Murphys and went to visit them at the hospital. So it's these things on top of what they did, the physical action, the things that they did beyond, above and beyond their true call of duty, makes me especially proud of them. So at this point, if I may, Mayor, I want to start handing out some certificates of recognition, and I wanted to start with Gail Cesenia. If I can have her come up here. This young lady took the initiative to call 911 and in effect started the ball rolling so that my officers could go there along with fire and take care of this. So, Gail, thank you very much. We appreciate it. So we have a certificate just to acknowledge that the police department, this entire community is proud of what you did, and we really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll go through mine first, Mayor, and then, okay. So next, I want to start with, if I can have Officer Jesus Viesca join me up here. Unfortunately, Officer Crothers was under the weather, so she can't join us today. But also, I have a certificate of recognition for Officer Viesca, and again, as I mentioned, along with being part of the rescue effort, breaking out windows, trying to help out his fellow officers, went back after the fact to help remove the pets so that the family didn't have to go through that. So we're very proud of you. So this past week, as the City Council knows, the past week you had proclaimed it as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. We had an appreciation luncheon for our public safety dispatchers. Some of council was able to attend, and we appreciate that. We rely so much on our public safety dispatchers to get us accurate information that helps keep our officers safe, coordinate the efforts of police, fire, EMS, outside agencies. That night we were fortunate to have two outstanding dispatchers in Cynthia Guzman and Giselle Frazier. If I can have them come up here. Again, they're trained. They did exactly what they're trained to do. What really touched me is that when they finished their 12-hour shift, on their own, they decided to go and visit the family, the Murphys in the hospital, just to check up and see on them. Because they had already checked up on their officers and they knew how their officers were. They had viewed the body-worn footage and they got a sense of what was going on, and they were a huge part of that. So we're very proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A few hours before that, previous night was March 3rd, there was a city council meeting, and we had been here pretty late. We didn't walk out of here till about 10:30 at night. I was pretty tired, that's way past my bedtime, but I went home, and it's really interesting to go home, and I went to sleep, and I woke up at about 5 in the morning to wake up to an email informing me of what had transpired just hours before. But I can go home and rest peacefully because I have employees like this working, and it does take a great leader. And that night, that team was led by Sergeant John Seaman. So if we can have John come up here. If you listen to the video from the body-worn cameras, he is there stressing that we need fire there because his people don't have breathing apparatus. He's coordinating the efforts to make sure that they're able to get out. And so, again, we're very proud of him for those efforts. Next, this is the first, for me at least, and it's something that doesn't happen very often. Immediately we thought, okay, this goes above and beyond. Again, I mentioned it's not something we train to do, nor is it something that we expect. So I met with my command staff, and we knew that we had to recognize all of our officers, and in particular the two that that went inside. Had it been any other way, it would have been any of these two names that would have gone in. It's just they happened to be there first. So what we are going to do as an agency is we are awarding Adrian Girales and Officer Stephen Singh the Medal of Valor, which is a first for me. There is policy that we have. This is statewide policies. I just want to read briefly what agencies issue a Medal of Valor for. It says, may be awarded to any employee who has demonstrated extreme courage and bravery above and beyond that expected during the course of duty. The employee was exposed to grave danger with full and unquestionable knowledge of the danger involved, or where a reasonable person would assume their life was in danger and their objective was of sufficient importance to justify the risk involved. Under such circumstances, the failure to expose oneself to such risk would not justify censure. Meaning that they knew full well, okay, this is serious stuff and I could get hurt. Also, had these officers remained at the exterior and called out for Mr. Murphy, they wouldn't have been sanctioned. They wouldn't have been in trouble for not going into a burning building because they're not trained or equipped to do that. In spite of that, they went in. And for that, if I can have Officer Adrian Girales and Officer Stephen Singh, I want to present them with their medals of honor. Now, this happened in March, and part of the this took a while is because we don't have medals of valor. We had to order them. And it does say Medal of Valor, El Centro Police Department. They're customized, and this one is for Officer Girales. The medal, it also comes with a pin that he's authorized to wear on his uniform. So I'll present that to him, as well as a certificate that outlines your efforts to save Mr. Murphy's life. Next up is Officer Singh. Officer Singh. So there's one slight difference that I need to acknowledge. Officer Girales, his pin has the colors blue and white, and it has a star. If you look closely, when we give Officer Singh his pin, it has 2 stars on there. Because we need to acknowledge that back on August 17, 2004, just about 7 months prior to this other, so within a 7-month period, there was a call. El Centro Fire and El Centro Police responded to the 600 block of Commercial Avenue for a structure fire. Officer Singh was one of the first officers on scene. Learned right away that they were saying, hey, there's people in the apartment. Made his way to the back and saw a gentleman trying to escape through a window. So he and a citizen helped the gentleman out. He then informed the officer that his wife and his 3-year-old were in the apartment. Officer Singh, again, with a residence that was fully engulfed in flames and smoke and could really not see inside, was able to see what looked like a child's bed. So without any regard to his own safety, he entered that apartment and searched for the child, but he couldn't find him. So he came out, the smoke was starting to overcome him. He then went back again and could make out the figure of the wife. So he went in again, but because of the smoke and the fire, the extent of it, he had to retreat. Fire department was there. They tried to. Ultimately, the lady and her child were removed from the apartment. Tragically, they expired at the hospital. Officer Singh had to be transported. He suffered severe smoke inhalation. However, on the way to the hospital, in the ambulance, he performed CPR on that child. In effect, well, not in effect, he has earned 2 medals of valor, all right? This is what we have, and I can give you example after example of what our officers are doing. I'm finishing up. I want to stress that on the video, you can hear Officer Hilales asking questions, the recent fire. He really asked Mrs. Murphy, are you okay? Second, is anyone else in there? And then where? You know what, my officers, in spite of everything that's going on in this nation, none of my employees working that day, the dispatchers, the officers, none of them asked about the race or ethnicity of the person inside. They didn't ask about the political affiliation. They didn't ask if they were pro or anti-law enforcement. They just heard someone was in there, needed help, and they went in. And that's what law enforcement officers throughout this nation do every day, in spite of what some in the national media want to say. This is who our law enforcement officers are. No, I know, Mayor, that City Council has some certificates, and I believe Senator Wessel's office and Assemblymember Garcia's office, so.
Yeah, thank you for that. So don't go too far. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you guys are going to be carrying with you today. Let me start with the representatives.
I'm sorry, Mayor, if I may. I know that the daughter of the Murphys
Okay,
wanted
yes,
to say a
please.
few words if I could. So
Yes.
Jennifer, Janae, please.
Good evening. I'm the Murphy's daughter, Jennifer, and I'd like to thank the City of El Centro for allowing this recognition ceremony and Police Chief Medueno for inviting our family to be a part of it. My parents survived a tragedy thanks to the heroic effort of many of the people here in this room tonight. When my parents went to bed on the night of March 3rd, they had no idea of the danger they were about to face. They were awoken from their sleep by police officers pounding on their door and found themselves in a room full of smoke. The smoke was starting to overtake their bodies, and they had minutes to get out of their burning home. Their amazing rescue was the result of quick-thinking, heroic people working together, and I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone who helped. Thank you to my parents' neighbor, Gail Cicena. She began this effort of the rescue when she heard the blast of their windows shattering and quickly contacted the police to report an emergency. She took it upon herself to help a neighbor in need when she noticed something was wrong. Gail is our hero, and we'll forever be grateful to her and her family for what they've done for my parents. And thank you to the dispatchers, Cynthia Guzman and Giselle Frazier, who quickly relayed the information and sent police out to help our parents. After their long shift, they also visited and brought them flowers, which showed their personal connection to their work and to those that they help. And thank you especially to Officers Morales and Singh for quickly arriving at the scene and risking your lives to save our parents. We know you went above and beyond the call of duty that evening, and my parents are alive today because of your heroic actions. We watched the live video of their rescue and were amazed at all it took to find my dad in that smoke-filled house and then find a safe path out. You will forever be our family's heroes and the reason we still have parents in our lives, and we can't thank you enough. And thank you to Sergeant Seaman and Officers Carruthers and Viseca for helping everyone stay safe in the neighborhood while this was happening, taking care of our mom after she was rescued, helping the officers inside locate our dad and help him out, and also finding us in San Diego so that we could know about this tragic event. Your actions, as well as Officer Morales and Singh, show your commitment to your work in protecting the community. And thank you finally to the El Centro Fire Department for saving the structure of our parents' home and preventing the fire from spreading to their neighbors. After seeing the smoke and fire damage, we know they risked their lives as well to save my parents' home, and we commend them on their incredible work. Our family is so thankful to everyone here, and we appreciate the opportunity to personally recognize you for your amazingly heroic acts. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so don't go too far because there's a whole bunch of stuff you guys are going to carry with you. We have been asked by representatives of our legislators to be here tonight and present some certificates of recognition as well. So we'll start with Tomas Oliva on behalf of our Assembly Member Eduardo Garcia.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to be here on behalf of Assemblyman Eduardo Garcia. As you know, he couldn't be here today, but I did want to relay the message and his sentiments as to the officers who risked their lives on behalf of a fellow resident. He recognizes that there were many people involved, peace officers that were part of the collective effort to save their neighbors, but he did want to commend their efforts and recognize specifically Officer Adrian Irales and Officer Stephen Singh for putting their lives on the line and saving a fellow resident as human beings, not necessarily as officers. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oliva. We also have a representative from our Senator Hueso's office, Hector Araujo.
Good afternoon, everybody. Mayor, thank you for having us here. My name is Hector Araujo. I represent Senator Ben Hueso. Senator Ben Hueso would like to present these certificates of recognition to Officers Singh and Irales for their acts of bravery and heroism. I can see there's a lot of very emotional people back here in the room. What happened is nothing short of spectacular. It doesn't happen very often, so when it does, it really touches everybody. And I'm glad to see this is the quality of police officers that are being hired for El Centro, and I welcome the new officers that just arrived to the police department. I'm sure they're the same quality and stature. Again, thank you for your actions. You didn't need to do what you did. I'm sure you didn't even think about it. It just happened, and you've shown it time and time again. I'm sure you'll keep doing that in the future because it's in you. It's not something you believe in. It's not something you think about. It's just something you do. That's not in all of us, I'm sorry to say. It's in some of us, and I guess that's why you're here working for the city, protecting us. So I'd like to present Officer Irales this certificate. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And just keep doing what you're doing, being a role model and example for the rest of us. I'm sure your family and friends and fellow officers are very proud of you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Araujo. Don't go yet.
Just getting started.
We also have a representative from our Congressman Vargas office, Rebecca Terrazas Baxter.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Honorable Mayor Silva and members of the council for allowing us to be here this evening to also recognize the efforts of your police officers. And not only the police officers, but actually I'd like to speak on behalf of Congressman Juan Vargas and recognize the efforts of all of those that were involved. It takes combined efforts of not only Officers Irales and Officer Singh, but the team that was there to support them, that were trying to be there to make sure that they came out safely, the dispatchers that got all of the services out there, fire and police, and also our El Centro resident, their neighbor, Ms. Sesenya, who was very alert and is being an active resident and make sure to take the initiative to make that call because she was concerned of a possible break-in next door. So I think that it's honorable to recognize all of these individuals that were involved. So I'd like to present special congressional certificates of recognition on behalf of Congressman Juan Vargas to Officers Adrian Irales and Officer Stephen Singh. And also to the rest of the individuals here, Sergeant John Seaman, Officer Jesus Viesca, Dispatcher Giselle Frazier, Dispatcher Cynthia Guzman, and Ms. Gail Sesenya. So we want to thank all of them for all of their hard work, their dedication to the community, to increasing the quality of life here, to increasing our safety here in the community as well. It makes us sleep better at night to know that they're out there on the street and to know that they go above and beyond the call of duty.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Baxter.
Comes to the gift cards.
We also have certificates of appreciation on behalf of the city council. But before we do that, I'd like to ask the council if you have any comments. We'll start with Mrs. Sanders.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. It is it's very humbling to recognize that individuals would put themselves in harm's way in order to save someone else. I just want to commend each one that played a significant part in this. The neighbor who really came to the rescue in a way that is unbelievable, because so many times people don't want to get involved, so they don't say anything, especially if they think it's a burglary. They'll just say, well, it's not happening to me, so I won't get involved. To the officers who put themselves in harm's way, never thinking about the particular danger, but rather thinking of how can I be of service and be helpful. To this, I want to commend you individually and collectively. So thank you for being a part of El Centro's finest. Now you know why we said what we said a little earlier when the new officers came forth. You are a part of El Centro's finest. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson?
Yeah. Wow, that's all I can say. It's what a night to start out with. You know, I know Dana very well. He was one of my instructors at San Diego State, so and a fellow Kiwanian. And I watched the footage. I'm sure most of us have seen the footage from the body cams and saw what you guys went through to get both Miss Murphy and Dana out of their house, and just very courageous. And I can say from my standpoint, I'm very proud that you guys are part of the City of El Centro, and that as a council member, I represent you guys. So thank you for being our finest. Thank you.
Mr. Cardenas?
You know, just again, I just can't say how proud we are. You know, and I want to thank your families. I see, you know, the Singh family and the Carrillo family in full force, and the Girales family. I see you have young children, and to take on these heroic acts is incredible. And I can't tell you how grateful I am as not only a citizen but as a council member to have you a part of our workforce. You know, Dr. Murphy, who was one of my favorite instructors at San Diego State, I'm just so pleased to see you here in good health and your family. And you know, I also want to thank Chuck and Carol Fisher. I know that they were helpful in moving furniture, and they were kind of the first responders and from a community standpoint, so I want to thank the Fisher family as well. But and again, to the command staff, our chief, and taking this opportunity to bring these folks before our council is such a critical an important part of our community. So thank you again, and congratulations. Officer Singh, you're having an incredible, distinguished career. I think you've been on the force for maybe less than 5 years, maybe, and already have shown some substantial talent there. So again, grateful to both the Officer Singh and Girales for your support and help.
Yeah. And I want to echo the comments from the council as far as how proud we are of all of you. But I want you to know what a fine individual you guys rescued, because I think myself included, Dr. Murphy was my professor at San Diego State in Calexico, and not only do I credit him for teaching me, but he actually was a very special motivator for me that pushed me and encouraged me to accomplish things that perhaps I wouldn't accomplish if it hadn't been for his help and his motivation and his assistance. So very fine individual. Thank you, Dr. Murphy, for what you've done for all of us and so many of us in Imperial Valley, and been able to accomplish things professionally if it was because of the help and leadership that you provided to all of us. So thank you for that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the council to please join me in the front, and I'll just call out the names of all the individuals that we're recognizing today. I won't read the certificates because they're all read the same, but let's go and, yeah, please. goes to Gail Cesena. Our next certificate goes to Cynthia Guzman. Our next certificate goes to Giselle Frazier. And to all the officers, Sergeant John Seaman. Officer Jesus Viesca. Officer Steven Singh. Officer Adrián Irales. And Officer Joe Crawford, who is not with us today, so Eddie, Dr. I understand you want to say some words, Dr. Murphy? Or do I?
I'm speechless. Those of you who know me know this is a rare occasion. I just want to say on behalf of the family that we're very, very proud of these officers. And we really owe our lives to them. So this is how we feel. Brian wanted to say just a couple of words.
You guys are all superheroes. I mean, literally, you guys went way above and beyond what anybody would ever do, and it's just great to see such big heart from such a small town, and it makes me proud that I grew up in Centro. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, just to close, I did mention to the family, so I have to throw out there publicly that Professor Murphy was also one of my professors at San Diego State. So.
Maybe we should get a raise of hands of everybody in the crowd that has had Dr. Murphy out there.
And the last thing in closing, I appreciate City Council recognizing these employees and the response from the community, and thank the families for being here. The mark of true dedication is that the employees you just honored have 10 minutes to get to work because they start at 7 o'clock. So there's no rest for the weary. So the celebrating for them will have to wait, but we're very proud of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, another presentation on behalf of the council is our National Fair Housing Month. We have a proclamation that it will be accepted by Marie Flannery.
Wait for those people to exit.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you very much.
That's a tough act to follow.
Yes, very much so. Well,
It's just amazing.
thank you for joining. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what we're
yes.
about to celebrate?
Certainly. My name's Marie Flannery, and I'm the compliance manager at Inland Fair Housing and Mediation Board. We provide landlord-tenant mediation and housing counseling services to the city of El Centro, and April is Fair Housing Month. The Fair Housing Act, which made housing discrimination illegal, was signed by President Johnson 47 years ago on April 11th, 1968. So ever since that time, April has been designated Fair Housing Month, and it's a time when we reflect on, how far we've come as a country as far as types of discrimination go, and also look towards how far we have to go. But El Centro seems to be an amazing place. I've been down here a few times, and I learn something new every time. And it's a long drive from San Bernardino County, but it's always worth it, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you very much. So on behalf of the council, I'd like to read you a proclamation. National Fair Housing Month for April 2015, whereas fair housing is a right emphasized by the United States Congress beginning with the Civil Rights Act of 1968 and the amendments of 1988, and whereas 2015 marks the 47th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, and whereas the Fair Housing Act and its amendment of 1988 prohibit discrimination in the sale, rental, or financing of housing because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, handicap, and family status, and whereas the City of El Centro has participated in the Federal Community Development Block Grant Program and has made a commitment to equal housing opportunity as a condition of life in our community that can and should be achieved, and whereas the City of El Centro supports and advocates for equal housing opportunities as these rights are vital to ensuring community wellness and enhance the quality of life for our residents. Now, therefore, I, Efrain Silva, Mayor of the City of El Centro, State of California, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2015 as National Fair Housing Month in the City of El Centro. Oh, this is for you.
I just wanted to give a quick update about what we've been doing in the city of El Centro to celebrate Fair Housing Month. It'll just take a minute.
Sure.
But we have been sponsoring a coloring contest for children that live in some of the affordable housing developments and also at the El Centro Library and the Community Center. We printed and have distributed 150 fair housing coloring books and crayons to the children at Las Brisas Apartments, Countryside Apartments, Imperial Gardens Apartments, El Centro Gardens Apartments, Euclid Villas, El Centro Library, and the El Centro Community Center. And our staff, one of our staff members, Veronica Navor, has been, she's gone to the library to the story time, and we have a book called Whoever You Are by Mem Fox that deals with diversity. And I just want to read a short passage from the
please.
book. Every day, all over the world, children are laughing and crying, playing and learning, eating and sleeping. They may not look the same, they may not speak the same language. Their lives may be quite different, but inside, they are all just like you. And that's the theme of our Fair Housing Month celebration. I'll be contacting staff to schedule a time to judge the coloring contest entries, and then we're hoping to present those to the children at the next City Council meeting on May 5th.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have a couple of scheduled public comments, and the first presentation is by the Imperial Valley Coalition for Life, and I'm assuming that will be Pastor Nunn.
Mr. Mayor, if it would be agreeable to you, I'd like to allow Real Hope Center to go before us, just because they have young children here that way, if they
that's
need
fine.
to move on. Is that okay?
That's fine. Ana Grijalva with the Real Hope Center.
Hi, this is Anna Grijalva, and she just wanted to make a short statement to you. We told you we'd keep coming back to tell you the good things that are happening, and Anna's one of our blessings and miracles.
Hi, I got pregnant at a very young age, at 14 years old. This is my son. I was wanting to have an abortion, and my mom told me no, and he's a really good kid. I got 4 blessings. The Real Hope Center helps me a lot. They're like family to me, Dolly and Miss Elliott. And I'm blessed to really have these kids and to girls to be having abortion at a young age. I got to finish high school for my kids and everything. And I don't think girls should be doing that, because these are angels from God, and it hurts me for young girls to be doing that. They can finish school if they want to. You know, they can. And I got a great son. He's a good kid, plays soccer, nothing but A's in school. He's a smart kid. Even my daughters are smart girls in preschool too.
Thank you.
And I just hope you guys can try to not have the abortion here. If you guys never had it, why now? Please.
Thank you for being with us, and thank you for the courage to speak to us. I know sometimes it's not easy to face the council. We look intimidating, but we really are not. And you do have a beautiful family, and I thank you for that. And young man, your mom is obviously very proud of you, and keep up what you're doing.
He wants to be a cop.
He wants to be a cop. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Is that it from the Real Hope Center?
Miss Lucy's going to come.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Manager, and council members. My name is Lucy Trujillo, and if you have any questions at all for me, feel free to interject. My name is Lucy Trujillo, and I work at KGBA Christian Radio, 100.1 FM and 1490 AM. I've been with KGBA since 2007. My title is an assistant computer programmer and an audio editor. This evening, I'd like to share with you about my personal experience with post-abortion syndrome. I'm going to read to you some of the symptoms that I've experienced from this handbook that we used in training at the Real Hope Center, where I also volunteer. And post-abortion syndrome is defined as emotional and psychological complications from abortion. These are the symptoms that I've experienced. Depression, hopelessness. Right after I had the abortion, I sank into a very, very deep depression where I slept a year of my life away. I was really numb to a lot of emotions. Sometimes my family would tell me, "You can't feel anything. Why are you always so emotionless?" I had a lot of remorse of the decision that I had made. I had a decreased self-worth. I felt inferior. And I also sank into alcoholism. I became addicted to alcohol. I lost of pleasure in previously enjoyed activities and people. I didn't find enjoyment in life. I repressed, one of them is memory repression. I repressed the abortion. I was in denial. I had bond problems with other pregnancies and my children. And I also had the desire to replace the child that I had aborted, which I did do shortly after I became pregnant again. And now my son is 18 years old. My journey started in 1996. That spring, I had an abortion. I was 8 weeks pregnant. I had what it's called a suction D&C abortion, first trimester abortion procedure. I was disappointed and confused at the response I got from my family, my close family, and my boyfriend at the time. They seemed indifferent, and I didn't have their support. And I felt like I had no choice but to have the abortion. So I made the terrible decision to have an abortion. And afterwards, I felt like I really messed up. I felt a huge sense of loss. I ended up being addicted to alcohol until the age of 33. My depression, like I said in the beginning, it just spiraled out of control where, like I said in the beginning, I slept a whole year of my life away. I would just get up to eat, take my kids to school, and go right back to bed. So my destructive lifestyle ended when I went into the New Creation Women's Home in El Centro. That was in March 2007. When I entered the New Creation's Home in El Centro, I felt cared for, loved, and I learned about discipline. I became a new creation. Even though I was heartbroken because my children were removed from my custody, I only had parental rights. So I had to fight 3 years for my children while in New Creations. I started little by little to feel my faith and my hope grow. So at New Creations, I totally surrendered my life to the Lord. I gave him control of my life. I learned to have a personal relationship with him. And I started to learn to be content in all situations, including the one where I had lost my children, which was the most painful thing I have ever been through. I wanted to kill myself, which I actually attempted. I have 3 scars on my arm. So there, in New Creations, the addiction to alcohol and tobacco was broken. I've been sober for the last 7 years. One night during class at New Creations, I met Debbie Allett. She came to talk to us about doing an abortion recovery weekend through Silent Voices. This weekend is designed to help women to heal from an abortion. I wanted to be healed. As you remember earlier, I surrendered my life to the Lord, and I wanted to come clean of everything. So I participated in a 3-day weekend, and I learned of God's gracious and amazing mercy and his forgiveness. It was a very intense 3 days. I came to terms with what I had done to my unborn child. It was a whole process in 3 days, very intense. And it was there that I accepted his forgiveness. I asked for forgiveness, and I forgave myself. on the last night, it's as if a huge weight was lifted off of me. And I knew deep down I had been healed from the terrible decision I had made about having an abortion. So I stayed at New Creations for a total of 3 years. I did the 16-month program, and the rest of the time I stayed on as night staff. It was during that time that Debbie and Marty invited me to serve with them. So during the last 7 years, I've had the honor to serve alongside them at Bird Choice, Silent Voices, and the Real Hope Center. Through my terrible choice, I've had the opportunity to share with others in similar situations that there are options and hope, and there is hope in their situation. Debbie and Marty took me under their wings and have went above the call of duty. They purchased a property and have been renting to me ever since. Since 2010, I've been their tenant. They have given me and my children a place to live. Currently, 2 of my children live with me. In closing, I'd like to acknowledge publicly this gracious and loving community who gave me shelter, fed me, clothed me, taught me about Jesus, helped me to heal from my abortion, helped me to reunite with my children, believed in me and gave me a job, helped me own a car again, and taught me how to love my neighbor as myself. So I'd like to acknowledge Christ Community Church in El Centro, Pastor John Thompson and Alicia Thompson, Rio Hardy Christ Community Church in Mexicali, Pastor Sammy Carrillo and Olivia Carrillo, Hispanic Ministry, First Baptist Church in El Centro, New Creations Women's Home in El Centro, the Director of New Creations Women's Home, Angel Dyson, and Assistant Director, New Creation Women's Home, Julie Renteria, Pastor Walter Colas, and Pastor Frank Sessueta at Christ Community Church, Steve Uri from Christ Community Church, Gracie Lopez, the Secretary of Pastor Walter at Christ Community Church, Debbie and Marty Ellett of Silent Voices and the Real Hope Center, General Manager Bob Sager at KGBA 101 FM Christian Radio, and the Director of Hispanic Ministry at KGBA 1490 AM, Timothy Lozano and Monica Lozano. And to my most precious gifts, my beautiful children, Ronnie, Marissa, Frank, and Jessica, whom the Lord returned to me. I thank them for their unconditional love. I leave you with this scripture that inspires and moves me to serve the unborn. And a quote from my favorite president, Abraham Lincoln, 16th President of the United States of America. The scripture is from Proverbs 24, verses 11 through 12. And it reads, "Rescue those being led away to death. Hold back those staggering towards slaughter." If you say, "But we knew nothing about this," does not he who weighs the heart perceive it? Does not he who guards your life know? Will he not repay each person according to what he has done? Let us have faith that right makes might, and in that faith, let us dare to end. Let us to the end dare to our duty as we understand it. Abraham Lincoln, February 27, 1860. Esteemed Mayor, honorable council members, and city manager, thank you for your time, and have a good night.
Yeah, thank you for being with us today. You know, your story is very impacting. Yeah.
Is it okay to?
Yeah, please.
Coalition now, okay?
Mr. Nair, how many speakers do you have on behalf of the coalition today? Just you? Okay.
This guy.
Right.
That's it. No, it's going to be very short.
Okay.
I'm sure you're going to be happy to be able to hit the drive-thru on the way home or something tonight for a change. The Imperial Valley Coalition for Life would like to publicly state our response to the hospital based upon our consideration of their legal response to our demand for a cure for the alleged Brown Act violations. We believe that we have an excellent chance at winning this case, and our legal counsel is ready and willing to file on our behalf. However, it is our belief that based upon the current makeup of the hospital board, that even if we were to win, it would not likely change the outcome of the decision. Therefore, we don't want to waste our time or resources or the city's in pursuing this, and we find that it's the best interest of our community to instead decide to channel our energy and our resources elsewhere in this fight to save lives. We appreciate the due diligence of the hospital in rendering a response and taking care of this matter, and we are confident that in the future and moving forward, we won't have this issue arise once again. On another note, it has come to our attention that Planned Parenthood is now threatening to sue the city. And we wanted to extend once again an invitation to employ the ADF or David Gibbs, who would both be willing to represent the city free of charge on a pro bono basis, should you choose. We also want to publicly thank the City Council and the city staff for treating Planned Parenthood fairly and not succumbing to the pressure to make exceptions to the city code that would risk the health, the safety, and the welfare of patients and residents. In closing, we would like to thank you for allowing us to have the biggest baby shower on earth here at the next meeting on Cinco de Mayo, when Dr. Alvida King will also be here to present to this council. We want to thank you for taking the time to listen to us and to her as we state our opinions on abortion. We're looking forward to finding out what your independent legal opinion will say, and we're hopeful that the opinion that you find will be the same opinion that Brawley's Pioneer Memorial Hospital was able to come to without having to have thousands of people show up at meetings. It leads me to this quote, which was found in the Desert Review from yesterday, April 20th. It says that concerning a transfer agreement, according to Pioneers Memorial Hospital CEO Larry Lewis, "We did not follow up with them," said Lewis. "We didn't say no, we didn't say yes either. It's difficult for me to understand why they would push so hard to be in a county that has such strong opinions against it. We appreciate Pioneer Memorial Hospital standing up for the moral conscience of this community, and we are looking forward to you being able to do the same once that legal opinion is returned." Thank you for your time tonight.
And as I indicated at the beginning of the meeting, we anticipate having a public discussion, a public presentation on this at our next council meeting.
And I want to thank you for being candid and trying to full disclosure for the community and having that presentation public on behalf of all of us. I'd like to thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nunn.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask Pastor Nunn a question?
Sure, absolutely.
I don't know, I think I may be excited about this baby shower.
Yes.
But I was wondering, then, with those gifts that are going to be forthcoming, are they going to be able for the city to partner with whomever is bringing the gifts, and we distribute them to some of the
We would
groups
love that. What our plan is we'd like to...
What are the plans?
The plan is to accept, diapers and wipes and whatever else people will bring, bottles and whatnot, so that we can distribute those to the local crisis pregnancy centers like Real Hope Center and Birth Choice, so that they can then give those to the young women who come to them seeking help. So that's what our desire is to be able to do.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know whether this is even appropriate for me to entertain at this point, but maybe between now and the 5th of May, we will have some decision. I know we partner with Catholic Charities, House of Hope, and those individuals have women who have young babies and toddlers. So that's a thought.
We thank you for that consideration very much.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Pastor Nunn. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are approved by one motion. Council members or members of the public may pull consent items to be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor. Any member of the council wishes to pull any items that are the consent agenda?
No.
Members of the public? Seeing none, I'm entertaining a motion to approve the consent agenda items 6 through 21.
I don't even see where I'm.
We have a motion by Jackson and a second by Cardenas. Please ballot. Motion passes 4-0. Okay, next item on the agenda is item number 22, public hearing to consider the recommendation of the Planning Commission on mitigated negative declaration 1108, prepare for the Southern Sewer Pump Station Project. Presentation by our Community Development Director.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. Before you tonight, we have two projects that basically involve the same project description. The first one that we're going to discuss right now that we're bringing before you is the Southern Sewer Pump Station. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
The proposed project involves the construction of a prefabricated sewer pump station and all the associated sewer pipelines. It also requires land acquisition. It also requires a change of zone from light manufacturing to limited use. It also will require a general plan amendment, and the approval or the certification of the M&D would be the first step to move forward with the property acquisition and the construction of the property. The project site is located at the northeast corner of Farnsworth and Dannenberg Drive. The pump station site will be approximately 0.25 acres, and the site currently consists of vacant land. The surrounded uses, this is a project site. As you can see, it's along Dannenberg Road Drive, next to the RV Broken Spoke Trailer Park. And to the north, you have vacant land. To the east, also you have vacant land, followed by the Simplot project. To the south, you have Dannenberg Drive, also the Wilbur Ellis hay storage, and to the west, you have the RV park. Adriana, excuse me, can you get the pointer? I'm sorry, I need the pointer. The project, the area location is at, let me just, just the blue, thank you. Can you help me? That's the project location, and basically what the project will do is extend the sewer line, construct sewer lines, and extend the force main all the way to Dogwood Avenue. And we have staff from Public Works here to go over the technical items regarding the project. This is the site plan. Again, Dannenberg Drive would be the location will be Dannenberg Drive right here, and this would be the project site. Again, the land use will require a change of zone and a general plan amendment to provide the land use as public use. The environmental initial study was prepared, and after preparation of the environmental study, there were 2 items that could be determined as impacts to the project. However, with mitigation, the project impacts will be less than significant. And one of those is biological resources. So the project will be required to conduct a burn out study before construction. And the other impact would be noise. The mitigated negative declaration was put out for public review, for a 30-day public review in late 2014. The notice of intent was published on December 23rd. The Planning Commission reviewed the project on March 10th, and we're before you as per the recommendation of the Planning Commission. Some of the comments received during the environmental review process are from these agencies: the Air Pollution Control District, California State Board, State Water Board, the IID, Imperial County Public Works Department. And basically the comments are that encroachment permits need to be obtained from the agencies. The project shall comply with Regulation 8 as per APCD and so forth. And all these mitigation comments can be mitigated. And just a couple of photographs of the site. This is a view of the ID facilities adjacent to the project site. the project site facing north. So at this time, we are recommending that the public hearing be opened, and we are recommending approval of the mitigated negative declaration for the Southern Pump Station project.
Thank you, Ms. Vicaña. Before I open the public hearing, let me see if there's questions from the council. I did have a question just as it related to aesthetics. What would this facility look like from the outside looking in? Is it going to be fenced, blocked, chain link? What kind of structure are we looking at?
I'm trying to, okay.
The building structure will probably be concrete block, or it could be a prefab building, but it would have a fence around it too, and landscaping to block the view of most of it, except maybe the roof.
Do we have a landscaping plan yet that would tell us how much?
Not at this time. The project right now is in its preliminary stages. Right now, the first step is to complete the environmental review, then site plan will follow after that, after property is acquired.
I think for myself, I think we should try to mitigate that aesthetic impact as much as we can, and by providing adequate landscaping that will block off any negative views that from our city street, because that's going to become a very important corridor.
Right. And that would be required, that's going to be some of the conditions of the project. Obviously, there needs to be some improvement to have access to the site, along with landscaping. So that's all going to be considered during the project.
Thank you, Ms. Vicaña. Council?
Yes,
questions?
thank
Ms.
you.
Sanders?
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. The question I have is the one regarding noise, and I know it's right, it's next to, if you don't mind, the RV park, so I didn't notice that anyone came forward expressing a concern when you did the review, no?
No, nobody came forward regarding the noise. However, that's one of the conditions that we're placing on the project, that all the equipment during construction time should be insulated and should have the appropriate, and also the timing of the construction. They cannot start construction earlier than, I believe it's 7 a.m. and so forth.
Help me out. Are we the initiator of this project?
Yes, we are.
We are.
This is a city
so
project.
So this is us. So we're talking about what we're proposing to do. Then will this expand our capacity in any way?
This Southern Pump Station, I could bring up a drawing, but it eliminates 3 other pump stations. You've got Legacy Ranch, Countryside, and then at 4th and Wake. All 3 of those existing pump stations will be eliminated when this is installed.
Okay. So we're eliminating, so this particular one will then be able to absorb all of that and function as one.
And then to your question in capacity, it will extend on over to Dogwood and further south with future sewer lines. We'll have to obviously install the sewer lines there, but we'll reach our southern boundary and to the east.
To the east?
Yes.
Okay. So then all of the things to the east, and if I use Danningberg as my boundary.
So it goes down.
East.
Maybe we could bring up the.
Which one is it?
East towards Yuma.
Yeah.
Past on this side of the mall.
I'm going to remember we need to discuss this probably when the mall was being discussed.
Which one is it here?
As you're finding that particular screen,
Which one is
or that particular slide, so as we go east, using Danningberg as the boundary, going east, this one will go past the mall, and so it'll go past the plaza?
Well, you have the Alder Sewer that takes care of the plaza and the mall.
Will that tie into this at all, Mr. Hagan?
And, well, it does.
It does, okay.
The Southern Pump Station will have a line that goes east down Dannenberg over to the Alder Sewer, and it's a force main.
Okay.
And let's see, we've got some.
Here's the, okay. What you had on the slide, just It
See if we go
disappeared.
back here. This is probably going to be where you see the line that goes down on the east side of the railroad track to the
Yes,
south.
yes.
That will enable us to serve over to Dogwood, and so that triangle, Dannenberg, Dogwood, and that railroad track will be able to serve that with that sewer line from the southern pump station. And it'll be a gravity line back to it.
Okay.
And then it pumps to the Alder sewer with a force main down Dannenberg to the east.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, that completes the questions I have at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Sanders. Mr. Jackson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. One question, what is the setback from Dannenberg? And I ask that because I'm wondering if we're
think it
thinking
shows on the
ahead as
drawing.
far as the potential for expansion down the line to a multi-lane road on Dannenberg.
You mean to widen it?
Yeah.
No, I believe the setback, and I need my glasses.
Yeah, I couldn't make that.
Yeah, it's, do you, yeah, I don't think there's use.
I guess
That's a technical
yeah,
term?
yeah, it's way back. The only reason I ask is I just don't want to see us get into a situation where we have issues already with some of the, with potential widening and obviously at some point in time, some eminent domain issues with trying to widen Dannenberg. I don't want us to become part of the problem.
Yeah, that's a good point.
No, that's been taken into consideration, so, but, I'm sorry, I cannot tell you the distance, but it is.
It's plenty so
it's
that we,
plenty, yes.
okay.
Mr.
And
Mayor,
perhaps you can find that out in an email that
Yes.
information to us tomorrow.
We can do that.
And
Mr. Mayor,
I'm
may I have a,
assuming-
oh, I'm sorry, were you?
Just finish, and I guess I'm kind of going back to the traffic plan from, God, years ago when I was on the planning commission that had, I think Dannenberg was going to be 4 lanes at some point. So, and I don't know how we're going to make that happen because that seems very challenging. But I just don't want to become part of that problem later on
I
down the
see,
line.
yes.
So if we could take a look at that traffic plan from, I want to say maybe that was 2008 or 9, someplace in that area, and just make sure that we've got the setback. We do. We do, good. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cardenas?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I just wanted to kind of preface by saying I'm not being critical about it, but anytime I see, when we look at fiscal impact and we just say unknown at this time, I know we're in the preliminary stages, but can you maybe give me some context in terms of the fiscal impact on this project and just to kind of give me an idea of, you know.
I'll refer to engineering and public works.
Yeah, the total cost is $8 million. We had that in a bond. We redid the bonds. We only took enough money out to acquire the land and right away, and then we'll go back and issue new bonds to get the remainder of the necessary money.
All right, thank you.
The only other question I had, Terry, before you leave, on with the addition of the sewer station, is that going to take care of our needs all the way up to our sphere of influence on 111, or are there going to be a need to?
No, it goes over to Dogwood, and then you have the Alder sewer, which is on the east side of the mall that runs north and south.
Okay, fine.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I have a follow-up question, and it segues into the questions that were asked by Mr. Jackson, and that is, do we have jurisdiction in that section of Dannenberg? Or is that a county, or is that city?
City.
It's
That's
city?
okay.
Okay, then maybe.
On the north
we've-
side of Dannenberg, it is
On
city.
the north side, but on the
Yes.
south side, it's what?
Well, you've got Wilbur Ellis that is thinking about coming in, annexing in.
That's been annexed.
Okay.
It's been annexed.
Oh, it's been annexed, okay, so.
So we have that, so we don't have to worry about that portion, I mean, that statement that I just made, a question I asked. That's a mute question.
Now, as you go west from Farnsworth, that's still county, right?
That's what I
Yes.
thought, see, okay.
South of Dannenberg.
All right.
So it's a mixture of county and city on the south side of Dannenberg.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Any member of the public that wishes to provide comments or testimony to the council on this matter, please come forward. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing, bring it back to council. Any additional questions? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Mr. Menville.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman, Councilmen, Ralph Minville, 1571 Dogwood Road. And to answer your question, I am east of Wilbur Ellis, and I am not annexed into the city. So there is a piece of property that belongs to the county on the south side of Dogwood that runs up to, on the south side of Dannenberg that runs up to Dogwood. Okay, I came into when the Planning Commission was having their hearing on the matter, and I thought they did a very nice job, and it was well present. The presentation was very nice, and at that time I spoke in favor of it. And I still speak in favor of it because this is progress. This is, if you want to grow, you got to have sewer and you got to have water. So it's all a process of growing. And we basically know that area, and it's hard to see, but if you look up here, below that green line, there's a triangle that runs all the way down to the to McCabe Road, which is your sphere of influence. And so if you're going to bring it into the city, you got to have sewer and you got to have water. It's just the facts of life. So anyways, but there was an interesting line that was drawn on this previous map. It's a blue line that comes down the railroad tracks. That was not at the Planning Commission hearing. And I also wasn't sure if the motion that was made was given to you folks about to bring it forward to you, to okay it, bring it forward to you. And in that motion, they had spoken about the fact that there would be a what we call a gravity line that would go from the railroad tracks east to Dogwood, because this doesn't show that. And all it is a forced main. The forced main, all it does is pick up the sewer and runs it down to the forced main to hook into the Alder forced main, where it eventually takes it back up to the sewer plant, which is on the north side of town, up by Walmart. But there was nothing in there. There was on the map, but we found out afterwards when we came to the hearing that it shouldn't have been drawn in there, and it was not a real thing. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of the fact that the commission, the Planning Commission, when they passed it, they, I don't want to put the wrong words into, anybody's, but I know, Norma must know what the words were, and I don't know if you guys were given the actual words, but the actual words were that they thought that there should be a continuation down Dannenberg to Dogwood with a gravity line.
I think isn't that the statement made by Mr. Hagan?
Yeah, okay.
That Mr. Hagan made that statement.
PowerPoint.
Okay, the other one, okay.
Hagan made that statement.
And see, let's do the control button.
Yeah, here.
Okay. So on that red dot, it moves around pretty fast. That indicates the southern pump station right there. The green line indicates the force main that goes over to the Alder sewer. And then the red line, is a gravity sewer that goes just to the east of the railroad track. Now, Mr. Benville came to the Planning Commission and he said, I'd like that gravity line to go all the way down to Dogwood so I don't have to pay for a future sewer. And he asked us to run the costs. I guess with the button down, it may not change here. Okay, now that I lift the button up, it does. So we ran the cost to run that sewer line down to Dogwood. Now, that's not the best design. It won't, because it's not deep enough to really serve that entire triangle. The best design is to run the line adjacent to the railroad track down south. It's not directly attached to your property. You'd have to get an easement through somebody's property or along a property line, but that would be the better design. But he asked that the Planning Commission asked that we run the cost. It's $465,000. There's your cost breakdown. And so if we ran the line where the blue line is, the arrow, that would be $465. If we ran it down the railroad tracks, we ran a cost, it's a little bit more. What does that read? What?
482.
So those are the numbers that the Planning Commission asked us to provide information for Mr. Menville and you as well.
Okay, so I'm a little confused. And so what's the proposal that you're presenting to us?
Well, right now, it's just to build the southern pump station and extend the line just down Dannenberg East, just past the railroad track. That's all the current project is. Mr. Benville's looking for us to do a larger project, extend the sewer line all the way to Dogwood, so his property's served.
But that's not currently being proposed.
No.
And that's not what the Planning Commission heard.
They asked for us to look into this, run some cost estimates,
analysis,
and present that, and that's what we've got here.
Okay.
So at a future point in time when there is some development being planned, what options would Mr. Melville have to connect?
Well, he could, if the city or the development occurred that it covered the, possibly covered the cost of extending it down the railroad track like this blue line shown here, he could run a sewer line over and attach to that, maybe possibly through an easement or along property lines. Or he has the option of extending the sewer from further down Dannenberg at his expense.
Down being east.
To the east.
Mr. Mayor, can I have a follow-up question?
Yes,
So
please.
today, we're actually approving, and this is where maybe I'm confused a little bit as well. I know we're approving the mitigation or the negative declaration, but are we just, in the approval or what's before us today is the actual proposal for the sewer line? Are we not voting on any of that today?
If I may? The action that you have before you is approval of the environmental document. The environmental document was analyzed, the project was analyzed with the project description that Mr. Hagan just described, with the force main extending all the way to Dogwood. So that's what you have before you. The final design of the project, I'm not sure whether it's complete. The Planning Commission did recommend, though, that whenever we get to that point, that staff should work with the property owners along Dannenberg to see if there could be some kind of cost sharing or, piggyback on the city's project for some cost savings. So that was the recommendation also of the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Ms. Vicaña. Mr. Member, does that satisfy you or answer your question?
Okay, first of all, I'd like to say, so that you know, that I wasn't trying to get this city to pay for it. What I was trying to do was, we should look to the future, and eventually you're going to have to take in this. Now, one thing, and I think that Councilman Jackson will affirm this, and I think Norma will too, is that LAVCO will not allow anybody to the south of me to be annexed into the city unless my property is annexed in. Correct. Because I become an island.
Yes.
So running that sewer down the railroad tracks is not going to do anybody any good, because if I don't annex in, nobody else to the south of me can annex in either. So, aside from being a political football, I'm not here for that. What I'm just saying is that I have some developers that are talking to me, and they are interested. I'm in favor of it, so I'm here to say I think it's a great idea. I think you should move forward with it. I think it's good for the city. It's progress. The evolution of these properties is to become most likely commercial properties, which will add tax revenue to the city, help everybody out. So, but I just wanted you to be aware that somewhere down the line, that sewer line needs to be run down Dannenberg to Dogwood. Otherwise, you're going to have problems eventually bringing in other properties. The railroad track, I can see how they go down the railroad track and they get everybody on the backside, but it doesn't. I still have to have something to run across Dannenberg to get to me. And I think Wilbur Ellis is not here tonight, but they were also up and asking because they wanted to have access to the sewer also. And so, that's just part of the deal. But I think that the stress point is that LAVCO will not allow anybody else to be annexed in the city of El Centro unless my property goes in. And so the way that arrow's drawn up there, there's no reason for me to go in because it doesn't serve any purpose for me. So But
But it seems to me that you would be able to tie into that sewer line that's coming diagonal.
that's down the railroad track?
Right.
Well, I was told that I'm going to have to get right away from somebody to tie in. So, I mean, that's, so that's something I have to do. Because my property doesn't touch that.
Oh, it doesn't?
That doesn't touch the blue line, okay? It catches a whole lots of property all the way down, but it doesn't touch mine. And the gravity flow sewer line that ends at Dogwood and Dannenberg on the east side of Dogwood is too high to serve my property. So that's the situation. So anyways, just wanted you to be aware of it.
It sounds to me that this is an issue that we can tackle later on.
Well, it's something that has, yes, I mean, I think basically they're trying to get through the mitigation of an environmental document, and this gets the ball rolling. But I think you should be aware of the fact that if you wanted to serve this whole area, that there has to be some planning done, and they should talk to the landowners about it, because eventually the land's going to be annexed into the city, and so everybody needs to get together and talk about it.
Yeah, thank
All
you,
right?
sir.
But
Thank you, Mr. Member.
I don't, I'm here to say that this is the way to go, because this is progress.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Duran?
If I would, Mr. Mendel, and you should be aware, because we've had conversations over the last 10 years. Please, as you're going through your process and with whoever your partners are, please contact our Economic Development Division, which Ms. Piedra is the director of. She'll be able to pull people together, particularly when we get into the design. This project is several years out, so we have some time, and things change. Simplot may change what they're going to do. They're north of you. Things change, so and plans change. So I would encourage you very much, as you move forward in your project, is to have that discussion with our economic development folks, because they'll pull in the public works, the public safety issues, and we'll have a better coordinated project. So I appreciate you coming forward.
I'll mention that to them. I thought that my impression was it was like 18 months out? Yeah, 18 months?
We have a lot of right-of-way to pick up to do the other lines you see on that map, so I'm not sure if it's 18 months. Yeah, that's just to get to right-of-way. We're not into construction.
When are you talking about construction?
Well, it would follow that the design is 100% complete.
Okay.
So it could follow as soon as we rebonded, got the funds to do it.
So-
I think what you're going to hear is the next project is going to drive that project more than anything, because moving Pump Station 2 is a higher priority, because we're on a shorter timeline.
You mean for the housing?
No, you'll hear this in a minute, in next
No,
item.
I know which one it is. It's the one over by the Waterman property, over on LaBruce Street, right?
No? Oh, yeah, well, okay, anyway, I don't want to change it, but you'll see that we have projects that we have to move forward quicker.
Okay, so this one's back on the back burner, is that what you're saying?
Second burner, not back burner, it's another burner.
Okay,
Thank you,
so
Mr.
there is no time. I mean, if you pass this now, there's still no time?
I don't have a set date of when we're going to start construction.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Member. Anybody else wishes to address the council? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Any additional comments from the council? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve Resolution 1524, a resolution of the City Council of the City of El Centro adopting mitigated negative declaration number 11-08 with monitoring and reporting program for project Southern Sewer Pump Station. The project proposes the construction of a new pump station at 102 East Dannenberg. I have a motion by Mr. Jackson and a second by Sanders. Please ballot.